Woj, you recently had a very candid conversation with Wolves coach Ryan Saunders. Your story is up for everyone who should read it on the ESPN app, but what struck you most?
With Ryan Saunders, Rachel, and really that entire organization, Gerson Rosas, Joe Brantz, their assistant GM, David Vanderpool, their associate head coach, the latter of two are both African-American, how deeply this organization felt about it, how they wanted to include their players, a very young team, the youngest team in the league, to get them talking about this and how they can move forward, try to impact that community. But Ryan Saunders, Rachel, as you know, he's unique to that place. This roster has been completely turned over since last year, except for Karl Anthony Towns and one other player. Gerson Rosas came in, hired a new front office. But Ryan Saunders grew up in Minnesota. His dad obviously is a legendary late coach of the Timberwolves, Flip Saunders, and just how deeply he felt his love of that place, how disturbed he was about what was happening in Minnesota. And then, as he said to me, as a 34-year-old white male who does not understand what it means to be an African-American in this country, and that was part of why he wanted to sit with his players and hear them out. And there was one story, Rachel, that really struck him. One of the staff members told him about how when they go jogging on the road, staying in a hotel, how that staff member has to think about where he puts his phone on his body. Does he put it on his waist or does he put it on his armband? Because what he fears is if I put it on my waist and I reach for it, there might be somebody who thinks I'm reaching for a gun. And for Ryan Saunders, the way that hit him, the way it would a lot of us, that is not part of my reality or Ryan Saunders' reality. And I thought that his story was a little instructive to how a lot of us in this country can look at this and try to be empathetic on one end, but also try to play a role in change and making things better.
Absolutely. So important to listen, and then use your voice to speak for justice. All right, I want to switch gears here. This is such a critical moment for the NBA. And I was struck on your Woj and Lowe crossover podcast. We heard you say, quote, "The future of the league is at stake." You said it more than once, Woj. Can you expand on that, on what you meant by that?
Rachel, how the league builds out from this summer and into next season and the following season, there is going to be a dramatic loss in revenue. And how does the league and the union work together to figure out how it continues to allow the league to function, I think especially in a competitive environment. Think about, Rachel, the teams who very likely are going to get left out of this summer's resumption. And whether that's 8 teams at the bottom, 6 teams at the bottom, 10 teams at the bottom, we're still waiting to see. But I think we're confident there will not be 30 teams in Orlando. Many of them small market teams, not all. The Knicks are part of that group. Golden State's part of that group.
Sure.
They'll be fine. But other organizations where, the team, especially younger rebuilding teams who are not going to be able to play structured basketball for 9 months from the end of last season and a season that we're confident is going to start sometime in late December, what it does competitively for them and then financially for them, especially heading into a season where teams don't know if they're going to be able to have fans in arenas or how many fans they might be allowed to have. And I think competitive balance has been an issue in this league. They have tried to address it with revenue sharing. But if those small market teams don't have fans in their building and they don't have those gate receipts,
right,
and then the big market teams may not have that or have less, well, then they've got less revenue sharing. These smaller teams are getting $24, $28 million plus from big market teams. This is going to could have a dramatic impact on what competitive basketball looks like in the NBA. And so I think as much revenue as they can get out of this summer moving forward, but also the teams that are left behind here and not playing, I think there's bigger issues for them moving forward, Rach.
It's going to be so interesting, and that's why these conversations, the Board of Governors meeting this afternoon, is so critical. It has so much weight. It's more about just who's in the playoffs. It is, as you say, about the future of the NBA. And Woj, it doesn't sound like they have consensus yet. There are so many competing issues, And these are owners who are very powerful, used to running their businesses, and they are all in Adam Silver's ear. When these big decisions finally need to get made, who will make them and how?
I mean, ultimately, Adam Silver is going to largely make this decision, in conjunction with Michelle Roberts and the Players Association. But for Adam Silver, he's not going to get consensus here, and he knows that. And I think what he's going to try to do is take as many elements that might impact any number of groups and incorporate them into a plan here. Everybody's not going to get what they want. Everyone's going to feel like they were a little shortchanged, but that's what compromise is. And I don't know if there's any faction of this that's not going to come out of this going, we wished A, B, and C. And what he's got to do right now is rally the owners and the teams to get back to thinking of what is best for the league overall, and to allow him to be able to move forward with generally the support of the larger group, because it's going to take 30 teams to help the NBA get out of this. They need the entire league. It's not just the star players. It's not just the big markets. And I think for Adam Silver right now, he's at a point where I think he has a pretty strong idea of how he'd like to proceed. But at the end of the day, he works for these 30 owners. And there are those at the bottom of the league who want to continue playing, who are still pushing for that. There are those who have less motivation to play, but it is harder for him to just unilaterally say, hey guys, this is what it's going to be. Like, let's move on. At some point he has to, and I think they're getting there. And I think that Board of Governors call today allows, some of the last-ditch politicking, lobbying that's going to go on before the league moves toward a decision here in the next few days and they roll it out.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.